that completely made me see who I am in my core, like who I am, like in my core, who I really am. And it completely woke me up for who I really am. And it made me realize that I put a lot of masks my entire life. Like you find who you are and you can never go back. It cannot be unseen. Like it cannot be unseen. Once you see it and you know it, it's like, you know, you're in your power, you know your truth, you know why you came here, you know, like it's just, and it's really sad to me to see people in this world that live accordingly to this false identity that they've created for themselves for safety.
So many of the guests on the show are just bringing their light in their own way, and it is affecting us. You know,
and trying to navigate your body, your physical body and your energetic body, it's so simple and yet so like helpful to go to the root, you know, and heal the root and look at the root where everything started from. Why? Sometimes, you know, you're not going to remember something and then maybe you'll remember it later, maybe you won't. And whatever, I mean, just an example, another example about that is I had a sexual assault when I was 4 years old and I could not remember any of it at all. And then I felt, okay, so I want you now to imagine like you're sitting next to it on a bench, like you're going to get to know it, and I want you to ask it, you can either ask it out loud or internally, why are you here?
Why are you here?
And see if there's anything comes up. It's really sad, and I think we all do it. Even if we know it, we still kind of do it. Like we judge people all the time. I can speak for myself at least. And it's like, I feel like as humans, we just want to have connection and love. That's what everybody wants. This is so important to the future of the like humanity.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of David's Saturday Night Sit Back. Hanna Stone is back, and she is here to help us heal our stories and wake up to who we really are. She wants to help you get in alignment with your chakras, find energy through somatic healing, and if you want a ton of background on who she is, check out her first episode on DSNSB, where we talk about when she ran away from home, learned to drive in the Israeli Defense Forces, and eventually made it here to Austin, Texas from Israel with a few stops in between. Today, Hanna is back to help me celebrate the podcast 1 year anniversary. To you, Hanna, for having faith in me early on when this was a baby podcast and coming on the show again today to talk about trauma, shadow work, our inner child, and so many more topics, I want to give you a huge, warm, heartfelt thank you. And with that, welcome to your second episode on David's Saturday Night Sit Back.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. And I'm so excited for this 1 year anniversary for this podcast. It's truly an honor to be here. Thank you for having me, and what a great intro. I love it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I have to say, I am very proud of myself that I did not miss a single Saturday the whole year. I made the audience a promise when there is no listeners that no matter what happened, an episode would go out, and I'm just so happy that I kept that promise, mostly to myself, but also to them, to the guests that came on the show. Never missed a weekend.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's been good.
Wow.
So, one of my first questions for you is going to be, what's been the biggest change in the last year? But I feel like that might, give away too much. Unless we just want to dive into it.
Well, that's going to be a long thing, because a year ago, I was like, I think we're all changing and growing, especially right now when the energies are so strong and intense. But I guess I would say I had my big awakening in the past year, like big spiritual awakening that kind of like helped me to wake up to who I really am, which we can talk about more later, what it means exactly. But it just, I found myself, I found my purpose, I found just like peace and found a way to navigate through this crazy thing that called life. Yeah.
I'm glad you found that. Let me ask you this. Are you excited to be alive right now?
Yes, I am very excited. And at the same time, I'm also, it's going to be a little like confusing to some people, and I'm not sure I want to go there. But I would just say, like, yes, I am very, very excited to go to be alive.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, I feel like our natural form is like not in a human body, like when we basically in between. So to me, it's like I'm okay there as well. So it's not like, but I love being here and I love experiencing this human experience and, you know, meet people and eat good food and, you know, all of these things.
What do you think? How long have you been in Austin now?
It's been since 2021. So it's been like 3 years almost.
What do you think about Austin?
Oh, I love it. It's really amazing. I love the energy that the city has and like the people that the city brings. And in the past year, I also built a community that is very deep and like we're all into healing. So we're like heal together and go deep together. And there's like a big, you know, I feel like there's a lot of people in Austin that seeks this depth, if that makes sense.
I think so too. Have you happened to have gone on any of Elle's walks? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
I'm going to invite you.
Okay.
So every Saturday, there's a walking group that walks for 5 miles. It usually ends up being about 100 people. Even last weekend when it wasn't raining, but it was misty and it was pretty gray out. We still had like probably 70, 60 people out there. And so there's 3 rules to the walk. No selling, no dating, and you have to bring a topic to talk about. And it's all people from about 20 to 50, with most of them being like probably 25 to 40. So it is like a middle-aged walking group. And I've gone for 3 Saturdays in a row now, and I have loved every single person I've met.
Wow.
And we've talked about everything from healing, podcasting, psychedelics. I'm drawing a blank here because I put myself on the spot, but just it's just a really special group of people, and every week probably like 20% of them are there for the first time, so the faces are changing. It's not like it's the exact same people. And the idea is that during this 5-mile, 2.5-hour walk, you float in and out of conversations. So if you float into one and you feel like it's not something that's interesting to you or you can't add to it, you just float off and head to the next group.
Oh, wow. That sounds cool. I would love to come one time.
It's really healthy. It's a great way to kick off your Saturday. It's a time commitment, but for me, it's more than worth it because it gets me out of here. It's been getting me a lot of podcast guests, and that's not why I even go. I've just met so many interesting people that by the end of the walk, I'm like, hey, you want to come do this again, but record it? So it's been really nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Austin is now that I've been here a little over a year, it feels like do you feel like I didn't come here for this, but do you feel like there's some sort of energy that's drawing the right people here?
Well, I definitely feel that in my circle, and I feel like I feel like it's happening in the city too. I'm not really sure, but it's like a feeling. It's like a felt sense thing, like what you're saying. It's like it feels like there's people that are coming here, like there's there's like an energy that flows here. I definitely feel that in my circle. Like whoever comes to my gatherings and stuff, it's usually people that are just spot on. I would love to invite you, by the way.
I'd love
I
to come.
think you'd be a good fit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for the audience, if this happens to be your first episode, let me just preface this by saying when I mentioned an energy that I was raised Christian. I don't subscribe to that anymore. But when I look at my life, your life, it seems like there's too many things happening to be coincidences. It's there's too much that happened leading up to right here, right now, to just say that was all just dumb luck. And so I don't have a word for this God, spirit, energy, whatever you want to call it, but to just say there's nothing out there outside of us humans, I feel like I'm not there.
Yeah.
I don't call it God of the Hebrew Bible, but I don't know what to call it.
Yeah.
But there isn't it.
Uh-huh.
If that, I hope that didn't scare anyone off, but that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I really resonate with you on that because I came from like a Jewish Orthodox background, so it was very fear-based religion. You have to follow God. There's heaven and hell, and then I was kind of like, this is not working for me. Like I'm not like subscribing to that. I don't like it. Doesn't make sense to me. And finding my own truth with my spirituality and my connection to, I call it source or the universe. Because the word God kind of triggers me because where we came from. But
Right.
some people call it God. It doesn't matter how you call it. You can call it whatever you want. And I feel like it's like an energy that is everywhere and it's also inside of us, if that makes sense. And like you said earlier, also like it's like it would be too many coincidences to see like everything that happens not just in the personal life but also on the planet. Like look what happened since COVID, and like how things, it's just like the intensity of the energy, like you can feel it. There was COVID, and since COVID there was like all of these other things that were coming, and now it's happening in the world. It's just like the energies are just like shifting like a lot, like it's becoming really intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be alive right now.
Me too.
Yeah.
Because it's a really good time to be alive. Even though it's kind of scary sometimes, could be, but it's also very it's like crazy times, and it's like I'm like excited for this.
I am too. I don't think there's two categories of people, but I do think there is probably a large group of people where life happens to them, and there's another group of people where they are happening to life. And if you're happening to life, I think it's a really good time to be alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what that simply means is like, if you're happening to life, you're taking control of things yourself. Or
You're
at
the
least,
creator of your life,
Yes.
right? Rather than being the victim of what's happening to you.
Yeah. May I read something to you?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of this book?
No.
So this is called The Daily Stoic, and every day it's these very short, just one-page things. And it's my first year reading it, and so when we decided to record today, I had no idea what I was going to read in here this morning, but I thought it was perfect. Speaking of like, are things just coincidence? This one is probably just coincidence, but let me read it to you, and
Yes.
you can react. So today is timeless wisdom. The quote to kick it off is, "There are two rules to keep at the ready, that there is nothing good or bad outside my own reasoned choice, and that we shouldn't try to lead events, but to follow them." And that was a quote from Epictetus. In the mid-20th century, there is an Indian Jesuit priest named Anthony de Mello. Born in Bombay when it was still under British control, de Mello was an amalgam of many different cultures and perspectives, East and West. He even trained as a psychotherapist. It's interesting when one sees timeless wisdom developed across schools, across epochs and ideas. Here's a quote from de Mello's book, The Way to Love, that sounds almost exactly like the quote we started with. "The cause of my irritation is not in this person, but in me. Remember, each individual has a choice. You are always the one in control. The cause of irritation, or our notion that something is bad, that comes from us, from our labels or our expectations. Just as easily, we can change those labels. We can change our entitlement and decide to accept and love what's happening around us. And this wisdom has been repeated and independently discovered in every century, in every country since time began."
Wow. Wow, yeah, I'm excited that you brought it up because we're actually gonna dive into that today, I think, when we it's like similar to me. I don't want to go too much into it now, but it's like very similar to me. Like when we get triggered from someone else, it's just it's kind of like what you said. Like it's something in us. It's not about the other person. Yeah, maybe there's something about the other person, but there's something that the other person brings to us, like a trigger that triggers us, that is coming to show us that there's something deeper that we need to look at. There's something deeper that still tied us down and keeps us away from being free in that certain area. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love triggers. It's good.
I love triggers.
stuff.
Excuse me. That's funny. I love triggers. Someone else on here about 2 months ago said, I love trauma. And it was, but, and what she was alluding to though was that now that she's at where she's at in life, all of the traumatic things that she went to, she was grateful for because they were all almost roadmaps to get her to where she is today. And if it wasn't for those, she may have never found herself.
Yeah. Yeah. Trauma creates resiliency.
Yeah. Well, because we told your story in long form the first time, we won't do that again today. Yeah. But do you have any stories from the past year? They could be funny, inspiring, sad, anything you want.
I guess I would love to share about my big spiritual awakening.
Okay.
Like the time that it happened. It happened on April last year. And I guess we didn't talk about it last time because it was right after it happened.
I don't think we did.
Yeah, I don't think so either because I needed to integrate that experience. It was very like intense. It was a whole big thing that completely changed my life. And since then, it's just been like a whole like one thing after another. So, yeah, well, talking about triggers, there was a person, we were doing like a medicine journey, and there was a person there that really triggered me. Like triggered my whole like trauma with men, my relationship to men, especially like Israeli men, which is my personal history. And that trigger like opened me up. Like I went to the main room, and I was like just sitting by myself, and I had this like in the beginning I had this like really weird thoughts, and like my brain was doing this like really awkward thing. And then all of a sudden there was an emotion that started to come up. And then and then it came up like crazy. It was like really coming through, and I started screaming like a little girl. I started like screaming in the room. And you know, the two facilitators kind of like held me and like they were kind of like letting me go through this. And it was very like a lot of things about why do I need to do this over and over again? Why do I keep coming back here? Right? So like it was like a lot of anger about that, and a lot of anger about my mom. Like my mom came up, and I was like, how the fuck is she my mom? Like, you know, like I got like so mad, and like released a lot of that. And then after like all of this huge release, it was probably the biggest release I've had. I had this like experience. Have you ever heard of Kundalini awakening? Okay, so Kundalini awakening is I'm gonna kind of like say the short version of it because I'm not an expert on this topic, but I know what it is like a little bit because I was looking into it a lot. So it's basically the Kundalini energy. It's the life force energy. It's a very powerful energy that we all have. It's in the base of our spine, in the root chakra, which is in the base of the spine. And when that energy gets activated, it goes like up the spine, like in a snake type of, you know, shape. And then it goes all the way up from the crown, like, which is this chakra. So it goes all the way through the chakras, all the way to the top. So we're going to talk about the chakras later.
Yep.
If anyone doesn't know what it means, we're going to go into the chakras. But so that energy, when that's being activated, you can't really control it. It just goes through you, and it like you just like shaking, And like it goes different for everybody, but for me I felt it coming through my feet, and it was going all the way through my body, like the snake, and all the way from my crown. And I felt like literally like I felt like I had like a helmet on my head for like lifetimes, and it just opened up. And I was like, holy shit. And when it opened up, like I started being very in tune with all my psychic gifts, which is communicating telepathically, which I've done it with my aunt that night. And I was able to like look at people and like really feel them, like really see them very deeply, and like really feel what they're going through, and kind of like have a sense of like if they're going to be okay, and like that they're going to be okay, even though whatever. So it's like that completely made me see who I am in my core, like who I am, like in my core, who I really am. And it completely woke me up for who I really am. And it made me realize that I put a lot of masks my entire life, my entire probably lifetimes. And I put a lot of masks that were involved with like being masculine. Like I was more in my masculine because I had to kind of protect myself. And then I found that my core truth is not those masks at all. And I'm like, I was like, whoa, this is so far from who I really am. And I could just see who I am. I could see why I came here. I could see my purpose. And it's just like, so when I talk about heal the story so you can wake up to who you really are, that's what I mean. Because we all are. The image that I have last night, I actually was talking to my partner last night, and I had this image of like we are this like endless multi-dimensional beings. Like we're like literally like I have chills when I talk about it. We're so freaking powerful, all of us. We have so much power, and we can do so much, and even if we're not doing anything, we're just like so powerful. And it's like then we create, because of the stories and the trauma and the programming and all these things, we create this little box that is like very much black or white, and we just like confine ourselves to this little box, and we just stay in this little box, and we create this identity that is completely false and completely is not in alignment with who we really are, which is, and so once you kind of like go into the depth of your soul, you kind of go into the traumas, you go into the stories, you understand where they came from, like you find who you are, and you can never go back. It cannot be unseen. Like it cannot be unseen. Once you see it and you know it, it's like, you're in your power, you know your truth, you know why you came here, like it's just, and it's really sad to me to see people in this world that live accordingly to this false identity that they've created for themselves for safety. And which is understandable, and I respect this, when you create this identity to keep you safe, and it probably protected you at some point. But like it's like, so this is why doing this type of work, it's so important, and it's so liberating, not only for us, for our own selves, right? Like for us to be in alignment and be, in peace, and be like feel fulfilled, and like understand why we came here, and see beyond, if you know what I mean. But it's also really freaking crucial for the world that we live in, because if one person is doing this work, like healing their traumas, healing their stories, finding who they are, they can affect automatically on tens, like hundreds of people that they don't even know, because it's all frequency, it's like energy. So like when you do this work and you clean up your stories, you come more in truth with who you really are, and then you like inspiring others to do the same, even whether if you know them or not, especially the people around you, right?
Yeah.
And this is why it's so important, because especially with like everything that's going on in the world right now, there's a lot of like really imbalances, and it's becoming more balanced. Like a lot of people are waking up. A lot of people are waking up right now. Which actually you saw like an image of it once. Like there's so many people that are waking up right now, and it's like it feels good, because this is so important to the future of the like humanity,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I have so many things I could say. First off, I got chills at one point of just like excitement and hope, because I want people to be happy, and I want people to have hope. Let me, you know, address two things. One, with the people awakening, one of the reasons the last year has been so special is because I feel like so many of the guests are trying to bring light to the world in their own way, whether it's creating a documentary. One is a therapist, a teen therapist, and so she's helping these kids one at a time every time they walk into her office. Another one is he's it'll be live by the time this goes out. We had a musician on, and I feel like his music is so powerful, and his lyrics are just affecting people. And so I feel like so many of the guests on the show are just bringing their light in their own way, and it is affecting us. You know, I spent a good portion of 2 days with this band, and when they left, there is a part of me that was a little sad because I just enjoyed being in their presence so much, and a part of me that was also just like very excited for what we're all doing. And for me it's podcasting, you know. And so I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of people who are going we are going to the war. We are attacking this war on trauma, and we're doing with microphones and song lyrics and with a 1 hour session with you, which we'll talk about later, and all these different ways. And so that's why I'm excited and have a lot of hope. The other thing I was going to say is that when you were talking about identity, I have someone in my life who graduated high school, graduated college, got married, had the kid, bought the house, and he's doing what he describes everything he is supposed to be doing, and he is the most miserable person I've ever met. He's constantly angry, frustrated, anxious, blaming others for why his life is a mess, and I feel like he's sort of one of the ones who is sleeping to this sense of like America has sort of set up this culture where he's doing everything as a man that he should be doing. And it's like, but you're so unhappy.
Yeah.
You're so unhappy. There's something missing here, dude.
Yeah. And there's so many people that are like that. So many people that are caught up in the system, that are caught up in this system that's trying to control, you know, all this like crazy shit that's happening. Like it's like, I mean, look at the commercials on TV. Like that's like freaking, that's the system that I'm talking about. It's like very, like they'll give you the disease. Like, I mean, let's talk about COVID, right? Like, I mean, I don't want to go too much into it, but like they created this COVID and conspiracy theories or not, but it's like the system. There's a system, and it can be with like whatever, and then they kind of like created the problem, and then they give you a solution, and they give you the solution for free, but then they keep you on like they control you. Like the system up there, if it's like like junk food, right? It's like, oh yeah, it's cheap, and then you go to the doctor, and the doctor is gonna give you medicine. Oh, you have anxiety, you have stress, you have depression. Here, take the medication. Let's like to help it, right? Where in reality, like no, the medication is just like to shut it off, like to put a band-aid on it. But there's a reason why it's happening. If you actually go deeper into your body, into your like heart, if you're actually gonna know what your body's telling you, our body's always communicating with us, you're gonna find that it's not, you don't need any like medication. And I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but I personally work with a lot of women that have like anxiety, that have stress, and by using the practices that we're talking about, it's really helpful. And it's very simple, but yet no one is teaching that. So it's like really, it's like almost like, of course they're not gonna teach that because they wanna be in control, you know? So it's, I'm not into like conspiracy theories, but like I'm just looking around in the world, and I'm like seeing, people like that friend that you mentioned. There's so many people that they're doing what they're supposed to doing, or they're like climb the ladder, like they're in a really supposedly like a really good job, right? Like they achieved their dream job or whatever it is, and then they're not happy. They're not really connected to the heart. They're not really connected to their body. So of course they're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
Because this is where you're going to find the truth. It's like in your heart, in your body. And then, I mean, there's more to it, but like it's just sad to see how, you know, I feel like this controlling society, like what's happening in the society is like very mind controlling type of like vibes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I stay off of TikTok. Because I have a friend who he came up to me in the gym the other day, and I don't know anything about TikTok. I literally go in, I post, and I leave. And he came up to me and he was like, my daily report for yesterday was that I was on TikTok for 8 hours.
Holy shit.
And I'm like, dude, you know how much you could have done? Like, anything, right? It could have been at the gym. You could have been sleeping. You could have been cooking a meal. You could have been booking your first session with Hanna. You could have been, you could like, and not to, maybe I'll X out when I said TikTok because I don't want to like smash any one company, but I see it too in different ways of like, what potential is he not unlocking within himself because he's on whatever app it is, whether it's a streaming app for movies and television, a social media app, like they're all just sucking our time and they're useful. I love them because I promote the podcast through them. And that's probably how we've gained the bulk of our listeners. But when you're spending, I can't afford to spend 8 hours on TikTok. I have too much I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's more exciting, like sitting here with you.
Yeah. You know, about that, I want to add to that. I think those platforms, they can be very like harmful. Yes. Like they can take your time and they can be very stress triggering or maybe trigger some comparison, like how am I not here, or like this person has this body and I'm not there. So there's all of that, but there's also like a lot of positive to it. You know, you can, depending on kind of where you choose to take it, right? But also another thing that's really important is to set boundaries with these things. Like have boundaries. Like no, I can't. You know, like I can't have it to take so much of my time if it doesn't like really give me anything. And sometimes being a little bit and watching something that is like really like encouraging and like healthy, right? There's a lot of my algorithm on Instagram is very healthy. Like there's a lot of things that I'm really into, like healing, a lot of wisdom that I see, people that I like to follow. So it depends who you follow, but it's also really important to set the boundary with that, right?
Yeah. With how many different kind of people I follow, Instagram doesn't know what to do with me. It's like, do we send you stuff about the military? Do we send you healing stuff? Do we send you stuff about building a bigger chest? It's just like, what do we do with this guy?
That's hilarious.
Which I don't mind. It
Oh my
makes
God.
it entertaining to go. Even I go on Instagram. I will go in and I'll just scroll for 2 or 3 minutes because it's entertaining to see what it's trying to feed me. It has no idea.
Yeah, it's confused.
Yeah. So that experience that you were describing, when you said specifically, it felt like a helmet and then it opened up. Did you almost feel like you had like a physical weight on your head and then it released?
It felt like there was something that was blocking here, and then it was like released. But not only it was released, I felt like this pull. Like I felt like this energy pulling me up, like this. Whoa! And I was like, whoa! Like it was like going that way, and yeah, it could be weight too though. When
Yeah.
you move energy, when I work with my clients and we're in a session and like they feel like heaviness on their heart, and then we work with it, you know, and then like it kind of goes off a little, so it's like becomes lighter. It's like the weight is coming off. So sometimes it can be that, but with that specific experience that I was describing, my Kundalini awakening, it was more like just like it was like just locked, and then it just opened. It
Wait.
just dissolved, you know, just like this helmet just dissolved, and it was just all shooting up, you know.
And did you say, was this a plant ceremony? Or
Yeah.
It was, okay. And so this was last April. What sort of happened after that?
Well, after that, it kind of opened this thing that like basically brought me like, okay, this is my power. This is who I am. This is my authentic power. This is who I really am. And then there was a lot of like struggles because there was a lot of like old programming still trying to push me back into like old patterns. But right after that, right after that ceremony, I was going, I was looking in the mirror and I saw someone completely different. All of a sudden, it was like, oh my God, like, it's like all of a sudden I saw a completely different person in the mirror and I saw my soul, if that makes sense. And since then, there's been just like a lot of things, I mean, even just with my relationship with my partner, which we met in a place like that, we both very much into growth and it's just like really hard to do relationship, like conscious relationship. It's really hard, but it's like really, it's been really, really, really like just amazing growth, like for such a short amount of time. Like there's so many things that I was working with.
Yeah.
So many things. But I really like to work with the chakras because it's just like, this is like the map that I like to use, because the map just makes sense of who I am and where I'm at on the map and like it's kind of like a map that I like to work with because it just really simplify everything without getting lost in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. We'll talk about the chakras. We're getting closer and closer to talking about them. Before I do, there's a word that you just used, and in case the audience, I hear it all the time in Austin, but we have people that listen all over the place. Programming. Could that be, using my own example, we wake up, we pray before every meal. Could programming be something as simple as that, where that was it's something that essentially is programmed into you about, like, this is how life is. This is what you're supposed to be doing. So when you mentioned that you were still moving away from some of your old programming, it would have been like when I stopped praying. Maybe I feel guilty for eating this meal and not saying a prayer because I've been doing it for 20 years. But now I'm at this place where I don't believe I need to do this anymore. So is that sort of an accurate way of defining what programming is?
Yeah, I think it's a really good way to describe it. It could be something as simple as that. It's something that to me, the way I see programming is like it's like the stories we tell ourselves, whether if it's from childhood, from generational stuff, from, the society, right? So like the programming of the society, for example, I'll give you the most simple example is that like a size X is what's good, right? Whatever size, right? Like a specific size. A programming from like childhood or whatever, it's like you program yourself to believe, like there's a story that you tell yourself that you probably heard from childhood, a story that is not even yours, but you kind of like maybe received that from childhood and then you kind of like live by that. It's your life. And it could be a lot of times, which that's where shadow work comes in, but it's like where there's a lot of things that we're not even aware of. There's a lot of programming that we're not even aware of. And that's where awareness is very important. It's a very, very big key. It's like more than 70%. It's something that I work with, with a lot of my clients. All of my clients really. Awareness is more than 70%. So it's like becoming aware, first of all, to those programs is already the first step, because there's so many programs that are happening that we're not even aware of it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then shadow work, it's like a whole thing that's, bringing those things to the light. A lot of, if it's like things that we're not aware of, if it's things that we judge, if it's things that we avoid, right? Like we don't want to look at them. So when we bring them to the light, we put like, I always imagine like this image of like putting a flashlight on it, like this, right? And like then just by putting a flashlight on it, it's just by itself, it's kind of like a lot of times it's dissolving just by that. But a lot of times it's like that's the first step. Okay, I see you, right? So I'll give you an example. I noticed like I had this shadow that I'm going on social media and I'm like judging people. I'm like scrolling and I'm like, oh, like what is this person saying? They don't even know what they're saying. Like just judging people. Yeah. And I was doing it so like not even aware that I'm doing it. And then in one day I was like, why am I judging people like that? And it was like, and since then, every time that I notice that I'm actually catching myself doing it, I'm just imagining the flashlight. Just like, oh, I see you. You're here. you're in my shadow and you're here. I caught you. And then it just goes away. Because when I judge people on social media, there probably nothing wrong with them. It's something in me that I'm probably judging myself, right? So
You know, it's funny because I am doing, well, funny is the wrong term for it. Not judging people is something I really, really want to get better and better and better at, to a point where one day in life, like, all judgment is just completely eradicated from my head. And I don't know if that's possible, but I think it's a good goal. It's better than accepting it or not living with it. But the other day, I remember I judged this guy, and I don't even remember if it was about his clothes or his, I don't remember what the judgment was. But then I was like, stop it, David, stop it. And he was walking away with, and he was holding his partner's hand. And I was like, you're probably just jealous that you're single and he's in a relationship. So I just tell myself these little stories of like, why did that judgment come up so quick? Like, why did my brain, before I could even consciously not judge him, it just was judging him. But I stopped it and said, leave him alone and leave his partner alone, and go think about something else, or tell yourself some good thoughts about that person. But that's been a shadow for me as well that I'm actively trying to work on.
I think a lot of us doing that. And thank you for sharing that. I think it's really important for people to know that when they judge, like they notice they judge someone else, just to kind of like stop and be curious about it. Like, why am I judging this person? And then like, because we all mirrors to each other, right? Like if I'm judging something about you, there's probably something in you that's I don't like about myself, or like something that's I want to be this way. Like jealousy, like you said, that's a big thing too. It's like, but like really kind of like stopping for a second, instead of like, oh, it doesn't exist, like not being aware to it. It's first of all to become aware to it, and then like be curious about it. Like, why am I judging why am I judging this person? Or curiosity is really a big thing. That's really helpful to, this journey.
Would this be a good time to ask you what are chakras?
Yes.
Because
There's never a bad time to ask me what are chakras.
I will say first off that if you go to Hannah's Instagram page, which I will link the handle in the show notes, so you can just scroll down a little bit and click on it. She has a link so that you can download a very useful 9-page guide that I read in under 30 minutes while walking the dog. So it's very, very easy to read. And by the time I was done with it, I still don't know if I can really define what they are, but I went from looking at this word that I had no idea what it meant to like, okay, I have a pretty good grasp about what's going on in these 9 pages. But let me just ask you, how would you define or describe these?
Chakras are simply energy centers. So,
okay, okay, cool. Episode's over. No, I'm kidding. Continue, please.
We have way more than 7 in our body, but I personally work with the 7 main ones, which is the 7 that are, in this guide. So the chakras, I like to work with them because it's basically the energetic body. And to me, I find the energetic body to be the root of everything. That's where everything starts from. Everything starts from energy, right? So it's like if we're looking at understanding who we are and what we struggle with, or why we're, codependent, or why we don't like ourselves, or why we have problem with boundaries, or why we can't communicate clearly, or why we can't listen to other people, or why we feel totally disconnected, why we don't feel our emotions. All of these things, to me, I like to use the chakras, the 7 energy centers, as a map, because this is the root where everything starts from. So I have a lot of clients that did a lot of like traditional counseling, like traditional therapy, which, by the way, I think it's really important, and there's a time and space for that, and it's like for some people in their journeys it could be very helpful. However, a lot of my clients that used to work with like counseling, like just regular talk therapy, they came to me and they were like, wow, this is like, I can't believe I never got to these places. Like, this is deep. And the reason is because when we do just talk therapy, we just stay in the mental body. We just stay in the brain, right? So we just talk. And then there's the emotional body, there's the physical body, and then there's the energetic body. So we can go deeper and deeper and deeper. And I like to go all the way to the energetic body because this is where everything starts from. So it's just, it's also really freaking simple. When I'm hearing talk therapy, that's really intimidating me. I'm like, whoa, that sounds like trying to navigate the brain is like really, it seems so hard for me.
Yeah.
Seems so impossible to me, right? And trying to navigate your body, your physical body and your energetic body, it's so simple and yet so like helpful to go to the root, and heal the root and look at the root where everything started from. Why do I have emotional eating or binge eating? Why do I have negative body image? Why am I having like this really negative relationship with money? Why am I not doing well financially? Why do I have this chronic disease? Why do I have why do I have this need to be in control? Why do I have fear of abandonment, fear of rejection? Why do I have issues with intimacy, sexuality? Like, why do I have issue with confidence, willpower, motivation? Why do I have all these things? It's not because you have like something is wrong with you. There's probably a blockage or weakness in your energetic body, especially like in whatever specific energy center that it's related to, right? And it's that simple. Like, does that make sense?
That's powerful. Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Before we go too deep down this, one of the things you mentioned on your form is that you would love to offer a real life example on the work I do, such as energy keyboarding and somatic guidance with the chakras as a map. If I'm open to it, I'm open to it. My question to you is, should we do that real life example now, or should we go through some of the specifics of what's in the guide and then do the real life example?
Let's go through the chakras and then do the real life example, because then you'll maybe pick up some stuff yourself.
Okay.
And I'll be curious to actually ask you if you could pick up some stuff.
Okay.
Okay. But you may not remember all of it. Usually, if I actually do like a full session with a client to explain them about the chakras and about their energetic body and kind of where they're at, that's like our intro session, that usually takes about an hour. So we're not going to go too deep, but
Right.
I'll explain you the basics of every chakra.
Okay. And what we can do too is keep in mind that if we give away too much, we can cut anything out. So if we end up talking about like all 7, and afterwards you're like, David, let's cut out the parts with like 2, 4, and 6. That way, there's still some draw for people to want to learn more on their own or through you. We can sort of do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So yeah, we'll start with the first one, with the root, which is in the base of the spine. This one is red color, and this is where it's like the foundation of the building, right? So like this is how the rest of the building is going to be determined. Because imagine like you have a foundation of the building that is kind of wobbly. How is it going to affect the rest of the building? And literally, as I'm talking about it, I feel this like sharp pain in my foot, and it's because the root chakra is governed by the lower body is governed by the foot. The lower body governs by the root chakra. So usually when I work with clients too, I'll feel certain things in my body, and like I can tell, kind of like connect that to whatever chakras. So like the physical body also governs by a specific chakra, depending what you have, which we'll talk more about. But the root chakra is the one that's related to the groups we came from. So if you think race, country we came from, religion, family we came from, its past lives are in the root chakra, generational stuff are in the root chakra, as well as the collective, so the society that we live in, and also inner child is in the root chakra. So inner child is mainly in the lower 3 chakras because it's all related to this physical realm, which I'll explain more in a little bit. But the main thing is to like. The thing with the root chakra is the root chakra and sacral chakra, and specifically root chakra, is being completely hijacked for all humans. If you're a human and you live on planet Earth, there's a very big likelihood that your root chakra is blocked or weak, and there's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a fact, and it's because we encode a lot of information that is in the root chakra that's related to the society. Like everything that's happening in the world, we encode information there, or generational stuff, right? So if the root chakra is the first one that's coming online when we're still in our mother womb, and that's where we already starting to encode information from, like, how our mother is doing at this time. You know, if there's a generational programming, we're already like starting to encode all of this information. And it's the one that's related to safety, security, stability, basic survival needs. So like food, shelter, money, and as well as belonging and like being grounded to the earth. This is the one that's like grounding us to the earth. So there's a lot there, as you can see, because again, it's all the groups that came from, like, you know, there's all these different things. And so if we have this, the fear to like lose control, like we feel like we have to be in control all the time. And there's also healthy control, there's unhealthy control. I'm talking about the unhealthy control. And it's like the need to be in control and the fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, not feeling belong. There's a really big thing with the root chakra that it's a lot of eating disorders are starting in the root chakra. A lot of, you know, like negative relationship with money, you know, not being able to have that trust also. Like, because if we need to be in control, the opposite is just to trust that everything happens just perfectly how it's supposed to happen. So the root chakra, like we said earlier, it also governs the lower body from the hips down. And it also governs the skeletal muscle and the immune system. So it's like very structural. Like the energy is very structural. It's like it's holding the building. So it's like the structure, right? And the quote unquote demon of this chakra is fear. So if we have fear of, honestly, fear of, you know, life, fear of, you know, not having money, fear of not being healthy, any kind of fear.
What I like about these guides is that when I first started reading through the qualities, I was sort of trying to wrap my head around it. But then on every page, there's a gray box that says, or I printed in black and white. It might be pink. There's a box.
This is red because everyone is the color.
Oh, cool. Okay. So it says psychological signs of blocked root chakra. And then you have the 7, which you've already listed, such as stress, anxiety, fear. And for me, I almost needed to know what the blockages were before I understand what the qualities were. And that helped me put a good framing on it. One thing I did not read on these was any of the affirmations, because I thought maybe we could read through them together. And we don't have to do all of them, unless you want to wait.
Well, the affirmations, there's so much you could, like, there's a lot of different affirmations that you could do. But the main idea is that every single chakra has, like, the specific 2 words, and it could be different in this, because it could be also things that's related to the root chakra specifically. But it's like, I am, or, you know, I feel in the 2nd chakra, which is more about feeling, and there's I do, which is a 3rd chakra. So everyone that has the characteristics. But you could also, you know, use affirmation that everything related to what we just talked about, everything related to, like, let's say money, you know, if you want to speak about that, if you want to, you know, say I'm grounded, you know, that would be a root chakra. So that the affirmations can be like so many things, you know, that you could say for each chakra. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm just reading through here, so I'll read one just so the audience, like, very first one. It's very easy. I'm grounded, stable, and secure in my physical being. I like that one because, to your point, when you were talking about judging someone on Instagram because of how they looked, if instead you start, I believe that if I, David, was to look in the mirror and every day say I'm grounded, stable, and secure in my physical being, that I could start to reprogram myself to be more confident in the things that my physical body is bringing me, instead of defaulting to judging someone else for something that I do or don't have, or they do or don't have. And so all of these affirmations, like another one, I'm worthy of love, respect, and acceptance just as I am. If I tell myself that every day, maybe even multiple times a day, if that's something that I am having an issue with, then when people are not loving of me or not respectful of me or they are rejecting me, that will come to light more quickly, and I can start to evaluate, well, what this person who my partner is did was just very unloving. Do I need to evaluate this?
Mm-hmm.
So I like that the affirmations are, as I read through them, are sort of reframing our perspective on ourselves and this world that we're walking through.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's one thing that I really like to, teach my clients about affirmations, because affirmations can be amazing, but they can also mean nothing if you just say it just to say it, right? Like it's not going to really do anything. If like, okay, I have to say it, this is my daily routine, let me just say there's a few affirmations just because I have to say it. But like when you say it and you actually really feel how it feels in your body when you're saying it, like really connect with your body and like notice what's happening in your body as you like really feel it all the way to your core. And also if you work with the chakras, have the intention in the back of your mind of open and balance your whatever chakra you're working on. And that goes to affirmations, but that goes to any types of chakra work. I mean, I have to say this real quick because I see a lot of people that they're telling me that they're doing chakra work, they're working on their chakras, and like, don't get me wrong, it's better than nothing, but it's also almost kind of like I see it sometimes like it's if you're already doing it, like just kind of go all the way, right? Like I mean, there's something, if you just do chakras, like okay, so if you just do meditations for opening and balancing your chakras and you say affirmations and you do energy healing, those things are great. It's definitely better than nothing. However, to me, I see it as only 2% of the process. It's only to me like it's like the icing on the cake. It's like a decoration, right? The actual work, the meat and potatoes, it goes way beyond that. It goes way deeper than that. It goes like really understand what's going on, really feeling it in your body, really like work with that energy and not just like go to an energy healing to basically fix you, or I mean I do quote unquote, or just like heal you or align your chakras, but like have the tools on how you can do it at any moment at any given time. And that's exactly what I teach my clients too, because just going to someone and just like having your chakras balanced in a session, in an energy healing session or Reiki, it's great for the day. And then the next day you can wake up and everything is all whacked up again. Like just all, messed up.
Yeah.
Because it's a very energy is always moving. There's always movement. It's constantly moving. And even if I open my chakras and I align my chakras in the morning, in the evening it could be completely messed up if I had this thing that triggered me or that thing that was going on or that. It's just like it's always moving. So I really love with this work, which we're going to talk about more in a second, is to go into the body and feel it in the body yourself. Not just go to a healer and let them basically heal you and align your chakras, but you have to feel how it feels in your body. And that's the way I believe. It may not be true for everybody, and that's okay, but this is the way I look at it.
Let me ask you two questions before we continue. Question one, I have a chiropractor right now, and the very first time I ever went to see him, excuse me, he was like, all right, listen, David, you can come see me once a week, and it'll be good, and you'll feel good for a little bit, but I'm going to assign you several exercises. I'd like you to do them in the morning. I'd like you to do them in the evening, and if you can commit to doing these, plus coming here, you're going to notice significant changes within your low back and in other parts of your body as well over the next coming months. So for someone that's maybe new to this whole idea of healing, and because we're going fast here, right, into the healing and the chakras and whatnot, would that be maybe a useful analogy that it's not about just going and seeing a healer once, like what you were saying, but this is going to take work. It's going to take work to want to be healed, to understand what's within these 9 pages. It's not just a one and done. It's almost like a lifestyle in a sense. Would that be fair to say that it takes a while to get to an understanding of this, such as where you're at now? Yeah,
It's definitely a process. It takes a while. And it's not only about doing, actually, a lot of it is about being with. It's about being. There's a lot to do, there's like the shadow work that we're going into, inner child work to do. There's a lot of like prompts and physical exercises that we kind of like to, you know, if it's like meditation, or meditation is more like being, I guess, depends what kind of meditation you do, but like it's a lot is to learn how to be with the sensations in your body. And that's the hard part. That's the part that we really having a hard time to do. Because all of us are such doers in this world. As a society, we're like very much in the doing. It's the masculine energy. We're like doing, doing, doing. Where being is becoming really hard for a lot of us. So being with the sensations in your body and just like be curious about it. Like, what is it? Like, what is this? Where do you come from? Like, what do you want to teach me? Which we're going to do in the real life example soon.
Okay.
But, which, you know, you'll get a little glimpse of what I mean when I say like actually being with that, and depends where it's going to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other question I wanted to ask you before we move on is, let's say someone who hit play on this episode and they've listened to us thus far, but as we just went through the first chakra, they're like, you know what? This is woo-woo. This is fake. David and Hanna are crazy, but I'll stick around for like 3 more minutes to see how Hanna answers this next question. If you met someone like that, what do you think your response to them would be?
Well, I think a lot of people, when they hear the chakras, they're like, ooh, that's woo-woo, because that's like, sound like this very like foreign thing. Like it's totally unfamiliar. I don't know what this is, like energy, whatever. But this is why I like to simplify it and bring it to our world. You know, when I talk stress, anxiety, depression, when I talk about relationship with money, when I talk about sexuality, relationships, like intimate relationships or relationship with others, codependency, setting boundaries, being in our confidence, like this is all basically when we talk about the chakras. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
It's like chakras. It's like it's like sounds to some people like woo woo or like a fancy word, but I really like to bring it to the body, to the physical body. So where you can feel the sensations in your body, like, and when you feel it in your body, like you just know because you feel it. There's no questions about that. And it's not just chakra specifically, because what chakras are, it's like energy. So example of how you feel energy, you put your hands together and you go like this, and then you'll feel like tingling sensation.
They get warm.
It feels like energy, like if, you know,
Yeah.
if like you do this for a while, and like then you kind of feel your hand, you're gonna feel energy coming out. You know, as well as if you put like your hand close to something, like put it close to your hand, but not don't touch it, just super close, and you feel energy. Everything is energy. Even this bottle is energy. Like everything is energy. So it's just a way to know that energy is everywhere, and you can feel, like, sometimes we feel the energies. You know how like you go to, I mean, some people are more sensitive to it and some people are not, but like you get good vibes from someone, you know, like good energy, or you get like really bad vibes from someone, or you walk into a room and you feel this like good energy in the room or bad energy. It's all energy.
Yeah.
So the energy centers, meaning the chakras, it's just the energy centers in our body that kind of like, this is a map for us to understand who we are in the world as humans, right? That's all, really.
That I hope you stuck around for that, and that actually was crazily close to like about 3 minutes, which was what we did not time. But what I love about how you summed up about this being a map, and hopefully I'm not getting too far ahead of us here, but as you look at the different chakras, they're looking at relationships, it's looking at confidence, it's looking at forgiveness, it's looking at creativity, it's looking at all these things that are crucial for us, I feel like, to have a really purpose-filled, like, driven, fun, creative life on this planet. And so as I read through and all of them and then sort of re-scanned the bolded words under the qualities, I was like, this is stuff that we all need and we all want. But like you were saying, we're so busy doing. Have we forgot to think about our digestive health, our inner peace, and these different aspects? Because there's some really important stuff in these pages.
Yeah. And this is just a little like taste compared to what's actually in the chakras. This guide is just a little, there's a lot more in there. And yeah, like physical things that are happening in our bodies, like physical issues, right? Like if it's like a specific, our hands are governed by the heart chakra, the reproductive system is by the sacral chakra, digestive system. It's all like our vision is third eye chakra and the brain too. And like, the mouth and the ears, throat chakra. So it's like it's not just like qualities that we, so that's how you can know. So I'll just give you an example, because like usually when I start working with clients, I'll send them like a list of questions for each chakra, and then just by them answering the questions, they can already tell where they have blockages or weaknesses. Because like if I'll ask are you a people pleaser, and you say yes, then it's not because you have an issue. It's because you're probably your sacral chakra is a little bit out of whack, which is all about relationships, codependency. There's a lot of depth in it. There's a lot of layers also, a lot of layers. It's not just like you open it and then that's it. It's open. There's endless layers in each, because it's energy. There's not just black or white. It could be, and that's where it gets a little bit confusing. So we're not going to talk too much into it, but it can also be in some aspect too open, which is kind of like a black hole. In some aspect, it could be blocked, and in some aspect, it could be like weak. And that's what I've found on myself and with my clients too, is that it's not just black or white, because it's energy. And energy is not, it's not like you see black or white. It's energy, and it's like energy centers, and there's a lot of different angles. It's endless, really infinite. Our soul is infinite. Energy is infinite. That's how I can explain that. There's no edges to energy. There's no end, Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's making sense.
Okay. I hope.
No, you're doing great, and it's very articulate. Oh, well, I was going to ask, how many questions is currently on this form that you send? Do you know?
Well, for each chakra, I have between 3 to 6 questions.
Okay. All right.
So the lower ones, usually I have more, because the lower ones is usually what I'm more focused on with my clients, unless we going into a process like we're going to do in a little bit. Then I obviously work with all of them. But the reason why I like to start working with the lower chakras is because this is the foundation of the building. And those are the 3 chakras that are related to this physical realm. So like, trauma, or, past stuff, or like things to heal, a lot of, there's a lot of things from childhood that are in those 3 lower chakras. And what I've found working on myself and also with clients is that when you open the lower chakras and you balance them, the upper ones just opens up automatically. So it's like, you don't need to try. And, a lot of people that are, spiritual specifically, they just want to be in the upper chakras, meaning the spiritual realm, which is the throat chakra, the psychic abilities, our third eye, right? Like we can see beyond, and like our spiritual connection, and they just want to be up here, and they don't do the lower chakra work. That can be unsustainable, and it can kind of explode one day, because the thing is, like, if you don't have the foundation, the stability, it's unstable. You know what I mean? So it can cause like issues. We can not having boundaries, or not having, good morals with people. So you see a lot of, people that are just in the upper chakras, a lot of times they also don't have like morals. Like they'll do some things that are not very, how do you say that word? Like,
They'll do things that are like morally corrupt.
yeah. I guess you could say it like that. Yeah. So that's why it's super, super, super. If anything, it's more important to work on your lower chakra than the upper ones, but they're really all connected. So, but again, what I found is that when you work on the lower, the upper ones opens up automatically. So the 3 lower ones are the physical realm, the 3 upper ones are the spiritual realm, and then the heart is the bridge between the lower and the upper. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. Is the heart then the 4th one that you talk about in here? Okay, cool. So can we talk about the
second one?
The second one for a few minutes?
Yeah. So the sacral chakra is the second chakra. It's also the second one that's coming online. Usually comes online between the age 2 to 4. It's when we start to understand that there's us and there's a parent. There's us and there's a sibling. So that's like going from the groups we came from, we're going to like one-on-one relationships. So that's where we have relationships, with others, intimacy, sexuality, emotions. This chakra is in the womb space area and it's orange color. And it's the one that's associated with the lower back, the womb space area and the reproductive system. It's like associated with that. And also the quote unquote demon for this chakra is guilt. So whenever a lot of addiction starts in this sacral chakra, because it's also associated with pleasure, it's associated with like passion, right? Like this sensuality. Sorry, sensuality was the word I was looking for. So this is this is feminine energy. So it's masculine, feminine, masculine, feminine, masculine. What was that? Anyways, like it's like all of the chakras, it's like masculine, feminine, except the upper, like the crown, which is none, like no, there's no,
Energy, not energy.
there's no, how do you say that?
Like a
Polarity?
designation or polarity.
Polarity,
Yeah.
Yeah, so so this one is very smooth, very gentle, very soft, it's very feminine. And our emotions are there too. So if we are like people pleasers, or if we like codependent, if we kind of like have issues with relationships and intimacy, if it's like intimate relationships or just like in general relationships, it starts in the sacral chakra. A lot of body image is also in the sacral chakra. And, if we like been through like sexual abuse, that's usually gonna be encoded in the sacral chakra. But a lot of they're all really connected, because like, for example, like something can start in the root chakra, like lack of safety, and that can cause us to create, have an emotional eating, because we don't feel safe. So we like use food for safety. And that's also, so it's like, that's how they're all really connected. They're not really separate. They're all connected and they're like working together. Right. So yeah, so that's the second one. I think I kind of mentioned everything.
Yep. You did a good job.
Yeah. So I guess we can go to the third one. Unless you have any questions about that.
I have one, but it might send us down a rabbit hole. Let's move on.
Okay.
I'm going to go with my gut on this one.
Okay. So the next one is the solar plexus. It's in the rib cage area. This is yellow color. And this is the doing energy. This is where we have our personal power, where we have our confidence, where we have our sense of self. It's our identity, who we are in the world, how we interact with the world, right? Mm-hmm. So from going to one-on-one relationships, this is where we go to our sense of self. So we went from the groups we came from to one-on-one relationships, and now we're in our sense of self, our identity. So this is where we have self-worth, self-esteem, right? So if we're having difficulty setting boundaries, basically protecting our energy and like setting boundaries and being like that, or having difficulty with like willpower or motivation or things like that, usually that's going to be associated with the solar plexus. It's where we have our personal power. And that's I think, and this is also related to digestive system. So if we have like digestive issues, it's going to be interesting to look at what's happening in your solar plexus, as well as sometimes body image can be there too, but body image, it's both sacral and solar plexus. If we've been bullied as kids, if we had an aggressive parent, and especially depending on where, like which time you like that happened to you, like what time of your development it happened to you, usually those are going to be encoded in our solar plexus. So you'll see a lot of times like people that are like being bullied or had an aggressive parent, that they're having a lot of difficulty with their self-esteem. That's kind of a theme that I found a lot with my clients.
Now, you said it depends on what age or when it happens. Is there any age that's like quote unquote worse or more impactful to be bullied or have aggressive parents than other ages?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that some ages it doesn't affect, but
right.
Some ages, yeah, it's more. Like,
yes.
So like, for example, whenever the solar plexus is being developed between age, I'd say 7 to 12, between those ages, it's kind of different for everybody. But so I had one of my clients that got sexually assaulted when he was 12, and this is around the time that you develop like your solar plexus, and his solar plexus was like literally like a seed, like almost non-existed, and he literally had like you could see it on his body. So it's like really interesting to see what happened and when and how it affected you, you know? Yeah. And sometimes we don't remember things because we kind of like dissociate, and that's a whole conversation, but
Yeah. No, it's actually, it's funny you bring up that you don't remember, because someone was in one of our other podcasts. It came up about someone who, very specific person who bullied me. I was, I think, 14, 15, and 16 at the time that this individual was in my life. And they asked me what the specifics were, that, like, what he would say or what he would do. Couldn't tell you if he paid me $1 million. I can remember his name, his face. I remember feeling anytime I turned a corner in a school hallway, that tension would rise up, and I would avoid eye contact and just pray that he didn't say anything. But for the times he did say something, that memory is just, I can't find it.
so that's really actually really a beautiful thing that I found that happens to us, because it's like our body protects us. You know, whenever there's trauma that's happening, like I believe like there's like our body, like we basically leave our body and we just don't remember that part, and that's because it's like a protection thing. Like our body's very like knows how to protect us. And for someone like me, for example, I had like no emotions. I was completely numb. No emotions for many, many, many years. I could not feel. I was like a robot. And later I realized that the reason why I had to disconnect my emotions from my heart is because I had to protect myself. And I put a wall around my heart that it cannot get hurt. And it actually really saved me at that time. So I was actually really thankful for that. And then, of course, bringing the cords back to my heart and learn how to feel again, which was a whole process, you know?
So you look at those lack of memories as a protective thing that my brain is doing for
This
me.
is, yeah.
There's no reason to go back there. There's no reason to revisit those words.
Yeah, and I mean, I can say that in the beginning of my healing journey, I didn't remember 90% of my my past. Like it was like a black screen when I was thinking about my past. And then the more I started the healing journey, the more I remembered. It's like that's why a lot of people, and it's really important to say it actually, this should be a clip by itself, because a lot of people think that, you know, it's scary to like heal, to do the healing work, because they're afraid like to open the Pandora box, because they think that there's going to be like a monster that's coming out and eat them. But the reality is that it doesn't work like that. It goes very gentle and very slow, and your body's showing you exactly what you need to see at any given moment. It's not gonna throw all of these things at you and just like, here you go, this is all of your freaking traumas, now deal with it. It's like, it's giving you like a little hints, and a sentence that I like to give my clients to use also when I give them prompts to kind of go into when we work with the chakras, or at a session when we do like one-on-one. The process is saying the sentence, please show me only what I'm ready to see. So it's really powerful. You basically talk to, you're speaking to your soul, you're speaking to your body to show you only what you're ready to see. And sometimes there's no reason to dig. And sometimes, you know, you're not going to remember something, and then maybe you'll remember it later, maybe you won't. And whatever, I mean, just an example, another example about that is I had a sexual assault when I was 4 years old, and I could not remember any of it at all. And then I felt like through my healing journey, I felt like something was going on, like something was happening. And sometimes one time I meditated and I kind of went into that, and all I could see, like that was communicated to me, is that I got frozen. I literally could not move my body at all. And it was a message of, this is what happened to you when that happened to you. And that's all I knew. And that's all I needed to know. I didn't know I knew who was that. I was debating between two people. I had a friend, and I was debating if it was her dad or her brother, but I couldn't see what was going on because I didn't need to see it. All I needed to know at that time is that this is my how my body responded. And I have this thing that I've been working with also in my journey, that I have a big trauma response that I have is getting frozen, which happens to a lot of people. So that was a very important information for me because that's all I needed to know at that time. And that information actually really helped me a lot for my journey. And same goes for like past lives. I don't know if like you believe in past lives, but sometimes in this journey, it's going to bring up a memory from past lives, but it's probably there's a reason why it's coming. And there's a reason why it's coming. There's a reason that it can add something to your to your life today, to in the present moment, or maybe there's something from that life that that still you carry with you that you need to heal. And it's not about going back and dig. It's just if it comes, then there's probably still something that we need to know about that, right? So I think it's also another thing that's kind of like trusting that whatever comes, it's exactly what needs to come.
What was the prompt again? Please show me only what I need to see.
Please show me only what I'm ready to see.
What I'm ready to see.
Yeah. So that makes you feel like safe, and it makes you feel like you have the agency when you're going into a process that is deep,
Yeah. Is that ever an intention that you set before going into a plant ceremony, or know if anyone has?
I personally don't do that because I really believe that I don't really need to say it. For me, my belief is that I don't need to say it. It's kind of my soul knows what to show me at any given moment in a plant ceremony. So it can go really, really dark, but I'm always ready for it. But for people who are afraid of starting this journey or afraid of like going to a place where it's really traumatizing and very scary, that's a sentence that can be very helpful to feel safe. But I believe that it happens anyway. Like we don't actually need to say that sentence. It happens anyway. But, I think this is my experience. I think other people may experience things differently. My experience is that I feel like whatever comes my way, I'm ready for it.
It sounds like you also believe that you could be living a second, third, fourth, fifth life right now.
Oh, yeah. I have 5 parallel lifetimes right now at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Parallel.
Yeah, parallel lifetimes. Like, I have 5 of me in parallel universes right now, 5. And that's actually something that I discovered in Akashic Records reading that I've done with someone here in Austin. I don't know if you heard about that, but she was the one she's basically channeling the messages from spirit, from the Akashic Records, which is, I don't know much about the Akashic Records, but I know this is where there's all the information about our soul, past lives, our purpose, right? All of these things. So I've done this reading with her, and there was a lot of information that was given to me about past lives, about my soul, purpose, about, parallel lives and whatever, all these things.
Now, when you say parallel lives and past lives sounds different, because past lives almost sounds like there was some version of David that lived and died, and then almost like my soul was reborn into this vessel, whereas a parallel life almost sounds like there are other Davids living right now.
Yeah, at this moment in just parallel realities.
Do you believe in both?
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
Well, we reincarnate definitely. I mean, I've seen a few of my past lives, so I know it's like a knowing. You just know. When you see it, you just know. It's not like, is it true? Is it not true? You just feel it. It's like you can't argue the feeling, right? And, sometimes may not believe in it, and that's okay. But the idea is that, like, past lives is more like you were in a different body in the past. Like, you were a woman, I was a man in the past, I was in ancient Greece, and then like Egypt a few times, and like, so there's like different lives that you lived, and in each life, it's like, there's different lessons. There's some lives you evolve more as a soul, right? And some lives you kind of like hinder. I think it happens to everybody this way. Some life you can be like a really bad person, and in another life you kind of like a good person, And I don't really know how this works, but I think we choose our lives to learn before we get here. Like we kind of like choose how we're gonna do it. Not we are like the human, but our soul is like our soul knows the way. But us, the human, is sometimes scared or sometimes like it's which that's the ego part where we just don't know what the soul wants, but the soul knows where she goes, or there's no polarity really. It's just a soul. It may sound really woo-woo for some people, I'm sure.
Maybe not as many as we think.
Yeah, I think more like I think it becomes more normalized. Like a lot of people talk about it nowadays. Like it's becoming more normal to talk about these things, because I think a big piece of it is because there's a mass awakening right now and a lot of people are waking up. And like, I mean, I'm even looking at YouTube, like people that speaks about spirituality, like how fast they're growing right now because of all of the awakening that's happening. So it's really interesting to see.
So, should we cover one more, or should we switch to the real life example?
Well, I actually think the first three ones are good place to start, like I mentioned before.
That's what I was thinking too after you
Yeah.
said that. Yeah.
But then you can imagine, I mean, I guess if people want to know more, they can grab my guide, or
Grab
I
the
mean, there's
guide.
a lot of information about the chakras
Yeah.
all over the internet, pretty much.
One thing I will say real quick, if I can find it quickly here. It's not the throat, it's not the heart. It is
Third eye.
the third eye. Was one that definitely caught my attention because
That's where everybody wants to be.
well,
That's the fun stuff.
and I mean, it's to go give like the solar plexus one. That one really spoke to me too. The personal power, the courage, the willpower. There's a lot of things in there. The boundary setting is one I need to be better at with some situations. But with the third eye, sometimes I don't know. I just feel like I get a gut instinct for people, and I don't. Depending on who you ask, I don't think you should dismiss that. I think that our gut and our instinct is more intuitive than we give it credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, and I think you meant, yeah, you were talking about this earlier. I think is like sometimes when you sense someone is good or bad, you might not be right 100% of the time, but you shouldn't just like dismiss that either.
Yeah.
Because we do give off an energy.
Yeah.
And I try to get, I think since I've been podcasting, I've been better at listening to it because I'm always on the constant lookout for guests, especially in person. And a lot of times I'll be having a conversation with someone and we can be 10, 15, 20 minutes in and the conversation might be pleasant enough. And I don't necessarily think they're a bad person, but there'll also just be something about them where I'm like, this isn't what I'm looking for.
Yeah. I think I always had the sense with you that you're very sensitive. And when I say sensitive, like you sense things. You're very, like it's called, like, have you ever heard of the term empath?
Yes.
Okay, so you're an empath, which means you can really, like, that's what it feels like for me. I think, there's something about you that feels like you're very you can sense things about people. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
I
I'm wrong.
appreciate that. I will say
That's my sense.
that one of my favorite episodes of the last year was someone who I invited on the show with. We had talked for, I shit you not, maybe under 5 minutes. And I was like, hey, I know this might be sort of weird, but I have this podcast and I'd really like to have you on. And I don't know why. I just don't know if we're ever cross paths again. And I don't want to miss out on this invitation to invite you. And then he filled out that form and sent it to me. And when I read what he wanted to talk about, I was like, holy shit. Like,
It was a no?
no, it was a yes.
Oh, okay.
One of my favorite episodes we've ever
Oh,
done. It'll be
wow.
released if you want to check it out, it'll be released by the time. Actually, I don't know it will be, so I'm not going to say the name. But so thank you for the compliment. And also, I would agree with you because how can you know that about someone when you've only been talking to them for 180 seconds? But there's just something in me where I was like, invite him on before he walks away.
Yeah. Yeah. You got that, yeah. I think we all have that. It's just some of us are really blocked, you know? It's like distracted, I would say distracted. Because the body and the intuition, it's like very subtle. And the distraction happens when our minds get really loud and it's like we can't feel the
Yeah.
subtlety. But I think some people are just more highly intuitive or just highly empathic.
Well, and going back to what you said too, or what you just said, is if we go back to the root chakra, is that if my life is being led by stress, anxiety, fear, if I have a lot of negative personal relationships in my life, if I have a negative relationship with money, if I have an eating disorder, if I feel like I'm disconnected from everyone on planet Earth, if I'm resisting change, if I'm going through all these things in my base foundation, would I be able to have a 3-minute conversation with someone and be like, I want to have Hannah on the podcast? No, I wouldn't be able to tune into that.
Yeah. Yeah, and you definitely wouldn't be able to have the intuition or the sense of like sensitivity to others, because there's so much that's happening for you internally. There's no way you can even tune into someone else. You can't even tune in to yourself, like, you know.
Right.
It's a whole mess, right?
This dog is a mess today. I have a cough drop if you need one.
No, that's okay.
Okay. I've had this cough for like 2 months, and someone told me I probably have the cedar fever because it's the only thing impacting me. My energy is at 100%. I just have this weird itch in the back of my throat that won't go away. So I've been loving cough drops these last 8 weeks.
Maybe we could work on that. We'll see.
Okay.
I don't know, or something else. Yeah.
That, or I don't know. So when you go to work on something like we're about to do, like the reason I'm going to the chiropractor is I have some low back pain. But we could also get into, I could try to tell you if I've been having any like mental. So when you go to work with someone for the first time, what are you looking for?
So usually I'll ask them, like, is there anything physical, mental, or emotional that's alive for you at the moment or in general in your life? And then whatever they feel pulled towards, we go there, unless we're like working together for a while, and then we kind of work with the chakras. We start with the root and then we kind of follow this. But if it's like a first session, usually I'll give a first session, but like kind of like just a little sample of like what we're going to do. If that makes sense.
You said mental, physical, or emotional?
Yeah. So literally anything. It could be something physical that's bothering you or something like, yeah.
We could work on my low back pain?
Yeah.
Oh, can we focus on that?
For sure.
Okay, cool. Great.
Yes.
I'm down.
Let's do that.
Okay.
So what you're going to do, I mean, first of all, I want to kind of like explain you a little kind of like what to expect. And then we're going to dive in. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of tune in with that lower back pain. Like we'll find what it is, we'll identify it, like how it looks like, what the texture, what's the color, what's the shape. And I'm going to guide you through a somatic guidance while I'm doing energy healing. And the energy healing really helps to get there. And once we identify what it is, you're going to ask it questions. Like we kind of get to know it. Why are you here? Where did you come from? Like, is there anything I can learn about you? And maybe just like learning from it. And then we'll try to transmute it. And sometimes it takes a little bit more than one time. But we'll see where it takes. I never know where it goes. So we'll see.
Do you want to be facing each other, or would you mind turning this way
I
little
can.
bit?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, just a tad. That way we're still facing each other, but
yeah.
we got camera too.
Okay, yeah.
All right, cool.
So I would ask you to close your eyes, and I'm gonna start here, and I want you to like kind of like tune in with your lower back, specifically where you feel the pain, and tell me if you feel it.
I feel it.
Okay. So I want you to feel into it and focus on that feeling. And I want you to tell me if you notice any shape that it has, any, if you feel any shape or if you see any shape.
I would definitely say like an oval, because the pain goes up and down my spine.
Mm-hmm. So it's oval that goes towards your spine?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when you're tuning into that oval, do you notice any color that comes up? Do you see any color?
Red.
Mm-hmm. Do you notice any texture? Does it have any texture? Is it smooth, hard?
It's hard, in like a scary way because it feels like it's gonna break.
Mm. Okay. So I want you now to imagine like you're sitting next to it on a bench, like you're going to get to know it. And I want you to ask it. You can either ask it out loud or internally. Why are you here?
Why are you here?
And see if there's anything comes up that's coming up. I want you to also be open to like an image, a memory, or a message, or an answer, or anything at all.
So at first, I started thinking about how it started when I went from a job that was all standing for the most part to a job that was all sitting. But then I knew that was like my analytical side of my brain. And then an image I wasn't expecting came to mind was when my mom went through a period of her life where she was abusing painkillers because she had this really intense back pain. And it's just strange that that memory sort of came to, like, I can even see like what she was wearing, this like pink, really bright pink shirt. And I just got a mental image of like her ran out of her drugs on the couch and in pain.
Mm. Do you see yourself there?
I mean, in a way, because that's where I end every night, is on the recliner, because that's like the recliner on my bed is the two places I can go where those positions, the pain goes away for the most part.
Mm. So you were a child when that happened?
Mm-hmm.
How old were you? What's
So there's two different stints that this happened in our family, and one I want to say I was probably between 8 and 10, and the other one I was closer to like 19.
Mm-hmm. So you don't see yourself in those ages, right? It's just you just kind of bring it from your own memory. Is that correct? Or do you see yourself?
No, I didn't see myself. I saw her.
You saw her. So when you see her like that, what does it bring up in you? An emotion or a feeling?
Um, I mean, the first one, it was a lot of fear because I remember I didn't know that she had overdosed. I just remember this night that we were in our new home. We had been there for only a little bit of time, which is how I think I was probably 8. And I just remember that an ambulance came by, and she was in her room with the door closed until the paramedics got there. And then they took her in, or they came in with the stretcher and they put her on it and they left. And it wasn't until I was probably like 14 or 15, and my brother and my sister and I were, for some reason, talking about that night.
And I was like, yeah, that was crazy. I wondered what was wrong with her. And my sister was like, David, you were too young to know or to understand, but she was on painkillers and she overdosed that night. And that's what ended up happening. I'm sorry, I forgot your original question.
No, that's good. You were mentioning like the fear that was coming up.
Yeah, just a lot of fear because you don't I knew what an ambulance was, but it's like now it's here at our house taking mommy away, and you don't have any idea why, and then I don't remember anything else about that night. I don't remember if I slept or if I didn't sleep. I just remember that like me and my mom were so significantly closer to each other than me and my dad were, and so I sort of saw like the person I loved more than anyone else in the world, like just left under these very strange circumstances that I didn't understand at all.
Yeah, so that was scary. Do you feel that fear right now in your body?
A little bit. I definitely saw a rise in anxiety when I first started to talk with you about, but not as intense as that night.
So do you still see that oval red? Still feel it?
I didn't, no, not as much.
Oh, so it's less.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I want to, but it's still there?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep seeing what it brings up because this is really good. You moved a lot of energy right now, but just by talking about it, like bringing that up because it's definitely related to that if it came up. So I want you to tune back into that oval and like kind of like ask it, is there anything I need to know about you? Anything that you want to teach me? And see if there's anything that's coming up.
Is there anything I need to know about you, and is there anything that you would like to teach me? I don't know on this one.
Okay, that's okay. So, last thing we're gonna ask it, and if basically if it says if there's nothing that's coming, we basically gonna go to the last step, which is trying to transmute it, the pain. So before we get there, I want you to tune back in with the oval, and again, imagine like you're sitting next to it, and I want you to ask it, is there anything else I need to know about you at all? And then kind of be open to any insight, message, memory, a picture, anything at all.
Is there anything else that I need to know about you at all? I don't know. The oval's being pretty quiet at the moment.
Okay. Do you still feel it?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, whenever you're ready, come back and we can talk about some things that you notice, I noticed. How do you feel?
I feel really peaceful. And part of that could be just because I had my eyes closed, and
Yeah.
when you just sort of allow yourself to sit in your thoughts with no other distractions for a few minutes, like
Yeah.
it
The
just feels
sensations in
good.
your body too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your lower back, you don't feel it as much now?
Mm-mm. No.
Okay. Cool. Really?
Yeah.
Are you serious? Like for real?
So when we started, I don't know if you could tell or if I was even doing it, but I kept shifting positions because the pain had flared up to probably like a 5. Because once it gets to like 6 or higher is when I start getting distracted, and I felt like the pain was low enough I could keep focusing on you. Right now, like in this moment, I'd say it's down to like a 3. Like it's still there. It's not like healed or gone.
Yeah.
But like,
That's why I was like, is it really gone? Like it doesn't work this fast.
It's not at a 1.
Okay.
But it feels. I'd say it's down to a 4. Whatever we just did, it.
Yeah, because when you do this energy healing and when you kind of like connecting a physical pain to where it, like why is it there, like why it came there. So there is something a lot of times, basically it's like stuck energy that creates in most cases it's like stuck energy that creates like physical pain, because everything again starts with energy. And like when traumas happen or things like that, it's like what happens, the energy gets stuck, and that can cause like emotional like mental, emotional, and then really slowest to manifest is physical issues in the body. So what happens is that it's a process. It takes time, especially if it's something that you've been feeling for quite some time. It's not like one thing is going to go away. But I think for now, like there was a insight, about your mom, which makes a lot of sense. And also in terms of the chakras, like, working with the map, lower back, it was red, and the red is the root chakra, which associated with fear. So you basically hold a lot of fear in your sacral chakra in the lower back, that's related to, what you saw, with your mom. That's what it seemed like to me, So this is how I like to work with the chakras, with the colors and with the characteristics that it brings up. Like, if it's like brings up fear, and then a lot of times we could go even deeper. Like if if you see yourself as a child, a lot of my clients, when I work with them, like they actually see themselves, and then, we going into the memory and reframing it. So it's like a guided imagery. A lot of time it's going to be just by talking about it now and giving it space and acknowledging it and giving it space and actually getting to know it. There's a lot of energy that is moving just by that. So like that's why you feel it a little less now, probably. But there is a lot of ways to go, and there's probably, because it's like a physical pain, it's probably something. I got this sharp pain in my left foot again.
Could
It's
it
weird.
be because of how you're?
No, it's like a really sharp pain in my left foot. It's like weird right here.
You okay?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. So yeah. So anyways, it's I'm wondering if it's connected to you, this sharp pain, because it's, I don't know, because sometimes I feel like people like physically. So I wonder. I don't know. But anyways, yeah. So like there's a lot that you could go about it. There's a lot that energy. There's a lot of energy that you need to move, or it could move if it's like stuck energy that created like a physical pain, in your lower back. So yeah, it goes really deep. Sometimes there's an emotion that's coming up, and because like emotion, it's another form of moving in the energy. It's emotions, energy, emotions. So there's a lot of ways that we could move the energy that is being stuck, pretty much, and that's pretty much what we're doing in the bottom line, like in this process specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You definitely have my curiosity piqued.
Yeah.
And just everything that we've discussed for like an hour now, or whenever I first asked you if we could dive into the chakras, because yeah, just because it's new to me,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I can
It's
tell that you believe what you're saying.
Well, it works. I mean, I've been doing this for a while now with my clients, and first of all, I did it with myself, and it's just works. And not only it works, it's like it's so simple. It works. Energy works really fast when you work with energy. Energy is fast, you know? So it's like in the beginning I was like, I don't know if like what I'm saying is right. I don't know if like what I'm experiencing is right. But then I kind of like tested I tested it on people, and I mean first of all myself first of all, and then my friends and my family, and then I started testing it on actual people, and I was like, damn, this is actually like they'll feel like a rock in their back, like literally a rock, and then next moment we work with it and it's completely gone, you know. And that's something small that just happened from something energetic. Obviously if it's a pain that you had for a while, it's something that's going to take a little more like a longer process is what I noticed.
Right.
But like, you know, crazy, like really crazy stuff, like all kinds of different things that we work with, you know. When you work with the energy in the physical body has a lot of wisdom and a lot of information. So usually when you'll ask like what do you want to teach me, usually there's some kind of like lesson or insights. But sometimes if it's something like sometimes all it's going to give you is one thing. Like today it gave you like, you know, this image of your mom. And you know that I think it like it gave you like a very big impact, and like as a kid, you know, that fear. And also another thing that I was going to mention is that the where it's located, it's the sacral chakra. Lower back is sacral chakra. It's the second chakra, and this is the one that's also where addiction is starts. So you know, it's kind of like you can kind of see the correlation between your mom, how there's that, you know, addiction, and then there's that fear that it brought to you, and that's why it's red. So it's like the red from the root came to the sacral. So this is just the way I like to work with the chakras when I, you know, when I do these processes.
Yeah.
It just kind of like makes sense if you know, it's very simplifying the, oh yeah, that's what's going on. And I'm sure there's more to it.
Right.
Because
We only did that for what, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes.
yeah, you know, there's probably, and how long have you had this pain?
8 years,
Yeah, yeah,
7.
yeah. That must be like a big one.
Yeah.
Like that has a lot of things, and I have a feeling it may be also because it's also what I've noticed with my clients, that sometimes it's like not just one thing. It could be a few things, if especially if it's something really big. It could be something that even starts from past lives or whatever. I'm just throwing things, you know, like just throwing ideas of you know, things that I've seen, that it's a potential that it could be not just this one thing that you just saw, but it probably there's more to it that you don't see right now because it's not time, probably.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't know if you'll have an answer to this, but when we are born, do you think that there can be ripple effects from our past life, or do we sort of start with the clean slate?
Oh, there is definitely, I believe. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I can give you an example of my life and how there's a pattern that I've noticed in my life that I've realized one day that it's something that started from past lives for me. So I had a past life in ancient Greece, that I was like an athlete. I was supposed to compete. I was a woman. I was supposed to compete, and then something happened. I got injured, and I was very physical, right? And then it completely destroyed my life. I could not compete, obviously, and I completely went into like a victim mentality, and completely went to like depression, and completely trashed this lifetime, right? After this happened. And then I was like, oh, that's really interesting, because in this life, and it's really interesting that it came up, because again, it's coming up only certain things that still affect. Not all lifetimes are affecting you, I believe, because you know there could be a lot. But for me, that thing was like, oh my god, like I really don't like to compete in this life. I really do not like to compete, and And yet everything I do with this very toxic, like unspoken competitive energy. Like even my healing journey and my spirituality, and it's a shadow that I wasn't even aware of. Only recently I realized that, and it's something I've been working with for quite some time now. But I'm still noticing that it's still coming. Like everything that I've been doing, if it's fitness, if it's nutrition, if it's healing journey and like my spirituality, it's like with this like toxic, unspoken competitive energy. That's everything is a competition. Where in reality, it's not. You know, like it's like I was thinking about manifesting my highest timeline, like the most highest like timeline that I want to leave, right? And the energy that I came for it was like I have to reach my highest timeline, and with this energy, I'm probably not gonna reach that anyways, right? So, I mean, I don't know, but like probably not. It's because it's a very toxic energy that I feel like I've been carrying from way beyond, because in this life, my mom, she never told me that I'm proud of you, good job, and that probably a piece of it, but this feels way deeper. It feels like something that's really like deep. And so I really feel like that's the specific thing that like affected me, from past life, for example. And I have more examples, but this is one.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You think I'm crazy?
No. No, you would be able to tell if I thought you were crazy. I'm more thinking just about like my own life and where I am today, and I wonder like who was past life David, or could this be first one? Could this be iteration number one?
I don't think it's your first life. I
No.
think you had many, many, many lifetimes.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's just a sense. I can't. It's just a sense.
Yeah.
It's not something that I know.
Right. Yeah, and I just wonder too, like, I don't think you're crazy. I am more open right now than I ever have been in my life, just because I don't think we talked about this in our episode, but for me, it just seems impossible that we're born and then we die and we either go to heaven, which is this place where there is no bad, no trauma, and we're just living these like peaceful lives for all of eternity, which sort of seems like a hell in and of itself. Or we go to a place where we are burning 24/7 for forever.
Yeah.
And that these poor souls are tormented on and on and on indefinitely. That just seems like there's no way that can be the answer.
No.
But to go back to programming, I spent the first 24 years of my life believing that. And I'm only 36 years old now. And so if I'm only 12 years removed from that, that means I spent 2/3 of my life praying, going to church, trying to save other souls. And because I know that can't be true, I have to be open to the fact that reincarnation may be a thing, that there can be parallel lives, because to me that seems more reasonable.
Yeah. Well, there's also the spirit world that, we go between lives. We hang out somewhere else, like the spirit world, the other side. But it's not like that. It's not like heaven or hell. Like it's not. It's like this is a controlling way, like you said, programming. It's religious programming to control people to because when we like find ourselves in our truth, in our soul, it's very powerful. And I really like respect people who are religious, but I feel like if you have like a fear-based religion, there's probably something wrong, cuz all it is like love, right? I mean, there's only like on the other side, there's no such thing as fear. There's no such thing as like hatred or this like or punishment. There's no such thing. It's like it's like yeah, some of the like these people that created the religion, like they want to control people, and they created this idea and pretty much sell it to people. It's kind of similar with like like the medicine. You create the problem and then you bring the medicine for free. So it's kind of like, here you created a problem and then you create church, and that's your medicine. Like you have to come to church, and like it's a control thing, right? And I actually heard it, like I heard someone else saying that on a different podcast I was listening to, and I really resonated with what she was saying there.
Yeah.
She was talking about that, the religion and how it's very controlling and fear. But I do believe that there's a lot of people that are religious and they don't have that. They do, they're not in a fear based, and they're not in the hatred or the separation. I think for me, like I feel like every religion that is like separating is just, it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, and I came from Judaism, and like they have a thing where they say like we're the chosen people, right? And to me, it's like I don't buy to that stuff, because I don't believe in that. I believe we're all the same, all of us. We're the same consciousness. We're the same, like we are the same. So yeah, I feel like whenever there's a religion that's doing the separation, or like if someone believes in the separation, and like it's just an illusion and it's not the truth to me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I when I'll probably say this a lot less articulately than you just did, but I think I'm coming to the same conclusion that we're all the same, because when I was a kid, we definitely were taught, like, let me try to think of a specific example. All right, here's one. We were taught to like never give money to homeless people, to never talk with them, to never, like, they were like portrayed as the outcasts of society almost. And this particular story has happened in different versions on more than one occasion. But I was in a Starbucks the other day doing some work, and a homeless guy walked in, and he said something to me. I forget what, but then he went and bought his coffee, and he sat down. And I don't know, I just wanted to learn more about him. So I was like, hey, do you mind if I sit down and ask you a question? It was something about like an artist or something. But anyways, we just got talking to his story and how he got to where he is today, and about his kids and his life. And it was very eye-opening to the fact that, like, most homeless people don't want to be homeless. Like, there's a simple truth that I think I like have never taken into consideration, is like they probably don't want to be in the situation they're in, and we're judging. I will use I statements here. I was I in when I was younger would judge them based off the fact that they didn't have a roof above their head. And now that I've met many people who are currently homeless, as well as have multiple friends who were homeless at one point and have now rebuilt their lives, that I'm judging a book by its cover. And the only difference between me and them is that they want food for themselves, and they want warmth and love and comfort and community. But how can they do that when they don't even have a place to sleep at night? So they have all my issues. I've just solved one thing. I have a roof over my head. So I can clearly think about all those other issues, such as how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to have an impact through this podcast? Because I've solved that root problem. But this is a very long way of me just giving one example.
Yeah.
That when it goes back to the judgment thing we were talking about earlier, I may have said it loosely, like, "Oh, I'm trying not to judge people," but it's a lot more important to me than that, because we are all the same, and I try to just not look at someone immediately because of their skin color or their financial position and say that they're less than I am, because it's not true.
It's not true. Yeah, it's really sad, and I think we all do it. Even if we know it, we still kind of do it. Like we judge people all the time. I can speak for myself at least. And it's like, I feel like as humans, we just want to have connection and love. What everybody wants. That's what I believe, and yeah, it's sad.
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
Yeah. And then, all this stuff happening in the world that's like separates us. And how are we going to feel love and connection if we feel separated? If we go into fear and hate, like we taught from age 0 that if we're not like this is not good over there, right? Like this religion is not good or these people are not good. I mean, where I came from, what's going on in Israel and, the whole thing that's going on over there with Gaza and Israel. It's like, I mean, I I remember me like being a kid and like it's like it's taught from age 0 on both sides to hate the other side. The other side is dangerous. It's like, I mean, for me, I can say like we were taught that like they're dangerous because they're doing attacks, right?
Right.
And they're also taught that about the Jews, or it's just like we were taught these things and the separation. Where in reality, if you would give two kids from here and from here, if you give them a chance to like actually, you know, like it's all like generational programming. It's all programming. That's programming.
Yeah.
To believe that if you're not this, you're bad, or you need to die because of you're not whatever. And this is really sad because it's like, I mean, look at what's happening because of it. It's really sad,
Yeah.
you know. So
So let me ask you this. And I'm not rushing to end things. I just want to I want to leave the people with some hope.
yeah,
So most of the 95% of our listeners are spread out throughout the US. Bulk of them are here in Texas, which makes sense, because me and all the guests lives here. But as we're wrapping this up, what would you like the audience to do? If they've sort of listened to this and they're like, well, I don't live in Austin, so I can't work with Hanna, or I don't know if you work with them virtually, but what's sort of like a takeaway, or even just like something that you're personally working on that you think could be useful for others as we go throughout the rest of this year?
yeah. So first of all, I do offer online. I actually only do online.
Oh, cool. So
It's
you're
really
still following that model.
Yeah, it's
right
really
on.
it's really cool what you can do. How online is can be just as powerful. However, I also I'm starting to do like in person too. Until now, I just did online, and I'm continuing that, but also do in person. But I guess what I would like people to kind of like take from this is the power of connecting to your body and how you can start doing it from like in a very like simple, easy way. So first of all, I want to give a metaphor that it's really important to understand. I actually heard it from someone once, and I think it's really genius. So imagine like you go into like a show, right? Like a live show, and it's really loud, right? It's very very loud. So this is like pretty much like the mind. The mind is really really loud. It's like kind of takes over, right? And imagine like when you're in the crowd and then there's like someone that's tapping on your shoulders and whispering in your ear, and you can barely hear it. That's like the body. The body's very subtle. So in order for us to kind of tune in with our bodies, because our body has all the answers, our body's a pack of wisdom, like literally everything you want to know is in your body. Like I can't say this enough. So basically, what I would recommend to start doing to practice that, to connect with your body, and it's really helpful, especially if you have trouble with loving yourself, or body image, or like negative relationship with food, or honestly, stress, anxiety, depression, everything. If you're in your mind too much, anything really, or anything that's related to the chakras really too. So like a way to practice that's really simple what I give my clients in the beginning when we start is when you go to sleep every night, from the moment you get in bed until the moment you fall asleep, there's a window, right? So in that window, you just feel your body, like scan your body, like notice what's happening in your body. And there's feelings or emotions and sensations. So feeling is like, wow, I'm angry. Wow, I'm sad. Oh, I'm happy. And just to kind of like name it without trying to fix it or do anything about it, just to kind of acknowledging that. That's a really powerful to acknowledge that. And there's the sensations like, oh, I feel some tightness in my throat. Oh, I feel like knot in my stomach. Oh, I feel tingling sensation in my feet, right? So like you becoming aware of it and you name it and you acknowledge it and you give it space. And that's exercise that doesn't take extra time.
Right.
And it can be really, really powerful for you to start to connect with your body and then be very sensitive to your body signal. Because sometimes you'll feel like I'm at this point now after doing this for so long that, you know, it's like, I know right away if I should do something. Like my body's always telling me if like there's something wrong, like I'll feel it right away in my body. And I was not like that at all. I was totally disconnected, you know? And so I think it's really powerful. And then there's more steps that you could kind of like take if you want to go further of then, you know, become curious about it. And again, not trying to like fix it or change it, but like, oh, I'm feeling this like knot in my stomach. I wonder what it is. And then, you know, you may get the answer at the same moment, maybe a week later, and maybe the curiosity, like being curious is all that you need to know. But it's like that opening that like listening and feeling. It's like you open another like channel or something, like you kind of like noticing and then like, oh, I wonder what, when you become curious about something, you can then notice that if you open to listen, you'll may get the answer the next day or a week later or a month later or a year later or, you know, if you're open, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Have you ever gone through a phase where as you're in that window before you fall asleep, in order to not look at your phone, but also not turn on a light to journal, will you ever tell your phone like, hey Siri, make a note that I'm feeling X and I'm sensing Y, and then maybe the next
Stop. Oh my God.
that was
He's going to continue? He's creating your note.
he's good.
He's so good.
And then the next day, maybe put it into a physical journal where it's just as simple as like March 18th felt this, sensed Y, and then sort of track it? Or is that just overkill?
Well, that's where you want to become analytic about it. You know, like, ooh,
That's
you know,
my
tracking.
analytical
Yeah,
side coming out. Okay.
probably.
So you would
Well,
almost say maybe don't do that.
Yeah,
just
I would
live
say
in the
just
moment.
exactly. Just be present with it. Just like, ooh, I'm noticing this. I'm noticing that. You know, there's no. I mean, you don't have to track it. If you do want to go into that, I would recommend. Have you ever heard of video journaling? So that's actually the way I work with my clients, and that's the way I journal too. So I'll either do it in a video. You can also do recording, but I like to do it in a video, and then like I'll sit and I'll just start processing, and I'm like, you know, I'll just talk about something, and then I'll cry, and then there's some things that will come up, and then of course there's a lot of realizations coming up when I'm speaking, and then I'm like, wow, as I'm talking about it, I'm noticing tightness in my throat. I wonder what this is. And all of it is recorded. So that's on a process. Like when you actually like want to process something, I really like doing it this way. But if you just do that exercise at night, I would say just kind of let it
live.
be. Just be present with it. It's about being, not about doing. That's
Right.
that part.
So one of my friends, he does something that I think is terrifying, is he does his own form of video journaling, but it's his podcast.
Oh,
And
wow.
so sometimes it's like 9 minutes because he sent something and he's like, all right, I fired up the mic because I'm feeling this way. And then 9 minutes later, he's like, that's really all I have to say about it.
Duh.
And then like sometimes they're like 30 to 40 minutes because he really is just like processing it. I'm like, bro, you are putting. So I've heard the saying that we have our public self, our private self, and our secret self. And I won't go into the 3 different layers, and you can probably assume just based off the titles. But I'm like, you're putting your secret self on a podcast. That's
so brave.
wild. Like, that makes me anxious. I
Whoa.
would never do that.
Wow.
But I also told him I really hope he keeps going because he has been starting and stopping the podcast. And some of his episodes, there's one in particular, I was in tears by the end. I'm like, dude, the thing that's, I say it's scary, but it's also not that unique. I'm like, this like resonates with people because it's just so raw, and it's stuff that we're all thinking about.
Wow. Wow, that's powerful. That's because I probably shouldn't say it. But yeah, it's no, I don't do that, but I put it somewhere. So it's like I'm just like trying to think if I release that, what I've done, in my processes, it's like scary.
Yeah,
Really scary. Wow, that takes some courage. I'm like, that's impressive.
it's good. It's good for him. It's good for his listeners.
I'm sure it's good for him too, like to be seen in those things, like and being witnessed, because there's something really powerful about being witnessed.
Yeah,
So when my clients do their video journaling, I offer them if they want to share it with me. Not everybody feels comfortable, but when they do, there's something really powerful about being witnessed in your process, because it takes a lot of weight off of it. And also sometimes we can kind of go back and like, oh, you can talk about that, or that's really brave. I'm like thinking this is like, it's really brave what your friend is doing. Wow.
and I'm not gonna put out. I'm 99% chance I'm not gonna put it on this show, but I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna take. Yeah, I want to do this. I'm gonna do over the next couple weeks. I'm gonna do a few of these.
Yeah, let me know how it goes. I'm
Okay.
curious.
Okay.
Cause the thing is, when you speak out loud, it's different for me, at least. Everybody's different when you're writing, because when you speak, you can hear yourself too.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I like to do the video, because it's almost like you're in a therapy session. Because if you just talk to yourself, you kind of feel crazy a little bit, at least for me. But like when there's a camera, I'm like, I can talk about it, and then I'm like, oh my God, now that I'm saying it, I didn't even realize that this is what's happening, right? It's like a lot of bombs, like realizations, right? So it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if the audience is stuck with us this long, thank you. First off.
Yeah.
Second off, I want to throw out a challenge to everyone today. This is not a new a normal thing. I'm not just throwing out challenges every episode, but I feel inclined to. I would like you to connect with someone you wouldn't normally connect with.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it as simple as that.
And I would love to add. Oh,
Add,
you can
add something.
Well, if you feel called to add to it, is like as you're connecting with that person, notice what's happening in your body. Notice your thoughts. Notice your emotions, like your feelings, your sensations. Like, oh, I'm really noticing that I'm judging this person, or I'm thinking this way about this person, or oh, as I'm approaching this person, I feel like this tightness in my throat. Right? Like just to notice what's happening.
Yeah.
Internally. I think that's pretty cool.
And if that challenge terrified you and you're like, no, here's maybe one thing you could try is I feel like I'm pretty good at encountering people on the street or anywhere I can find an excuse to talk to someone. I pay them a compliment if you want my secret. It's not much of a secret, but you could even say like, listen, you could go up to whoever it is that you're trying to connect with and be like, this dude has this podcast and he threw out this challenge that I needed to meet a stranger because it puts me out of my comfort zone. So instead of wording it as like, I'm connecting with you because I normally wouldn't, because that might start things off on a bad
Creepy.
foot. You could instead say that this podcast is about building community, and for anyone that hasn't connected with a stranger in a while, that was their challenge to the audience is to connect. So I just wanted to, shake your hand and say, could I buy your coffee? Or I don't know, just what I will say
You have
is
nice shoes.
You have nice shoes. I noticed you. Thank you. I noticed your shoes, so I decided to connect with you. I'm David. What's your name? And then just see where it goes. And if it goes nowhere else other than the fact that you got their name and shook their hand, I believe that you probably just did something that was incredibly outside your comfort zone, which is putting you in the right direction.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, I need to try that because that's scary to me.
You should.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying that is I've done this over hundreds of times in Austin, so I'm
Wow.
getting really good at it.
That's really cool.
It's a fun skill.
It is. It sounds like it.
Yeah.
I feel very like I feel like it's hard for me to break the ice with people. Like there's something that's like intimidating for me. Like unless it's people that I met somewhere, it's like it takes time. But then I'm really good with people after I know them. But to that first moment is so hard for me, and I think that's something that most of us have.
Yeah.
The breaking the ice moment.
I will say, at least in Austin, most people are pretty receptive to it. If I've only had, I think, two, and I can see their faces where I could tell in a couple of seconds that, like, oh, this person doesn't want to talk. And if your gut tells you that too, feel free to just try to exit. They will let you exit that conversation very easily if they don't want to talk to you. So I just bring that up to say, like, I have more evidence that it will probably go well than it won't.
And even if it won't, what's the worst that's gonna happen? Like this person is gonna look at you like you're crazy or is gonna judge you. Well, that's really their experience, you know. If someone is being nasty to you when you're trying to do something like that, I'm telling that to myself too, right? Is like probably they're going through a bad day or something, having a bad experience.
This has been so much fun.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
Is there anything else? We don't have to end, but is there anything else specific? And we can end as well. It can go either way. Is there anything else that you really wanted to talk about tonight that we should riff on for a few minutes?
I think we covered a lot. I think it's a big chunk of things that we talked about.
Yeah. Can I ask you? Since you've been on the show. Before this, sorry, this is how I'm going to close this out. I have one more question for you, but before I ask Hanna her last question, if you have stuck with us this far, whether this was your first episode or you've been with us the entire year, happy anniversary, and thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show today, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and hop on over to Spotify and leave us a 5-star review. And if you only are going to do one thing, this is the thing I want you to do the most. Go to Apple Podcasts and write us a review. But it doesn't have to be a review. You could write what you thought about this episode specifically. You could even write to future audience members, this is why you should go check out Hanna Stone's episode. So just because it's called a review, you can write whatever you want. And I would love to see a couple of the audience members go and write some written feedback as a congratulations on making it to the 1 year anniversary mark. So please go do that. We've started a new tradition in 2024 where I take some of my favorite questions that I hear in the podcast that I listen to, and I ask them to my guests to get their answers. The one I think I'm going to ask you is there someone in your life that really needs your help, but you're unsure of how to help them?
Well, I think it can be situational. Like, I mean, even my partner, some situations I have no idea how to help him, how to guide him through it, and some situation I'm like rocking it. And I think it's like that with every person.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just don't know how to help. And sometimes I can't help. And sometimes I don't think it's my place to help because I have to set a boundary for myself. And sometimes I can help. I can help. And sometimes by helping them, it's just by being them, for them, not by trying to fix the situation or try to change it for them or save them. I don't like to save people. I like to support people. I don't like to be the savior. And, I do have those tendencies sometimes, but I really like to support people and not to save them. because that's gonna put them automatically in a victim mentality. If I'm like savior, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I heard, was that just today, that sometimes the best gift you can give is just listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do have to say also, which is going to sound weird because this is, you're like, wait, you don't help your clients. I don't save my clients. Cause the way we do it, we go into their bodies and like they receive their own answers. And like they almost have like a sense of power of like, this is what I'm getting from me. Like, so it's very empowering actually. It's not like, you're in shit and I'm gonna help you and I'm gonna save you. Like, I'm not, like, we're not doing that. So I think it's really important because a lot of people are going for healers to, sometimes be saved or something, or they need someone to save them. And we may sometimes start this way with a client that's like, obviously we may start definitely there, but we're shifting from that very quickly.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That makes a ton of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least to me.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's what's important.
And in the couple minutes that we were doing the real life example, I didn't get any feeling of that. Like you were trying to save me.
Yeah.
That wasn't the experience at all. I
Yeah,
feel like
thank
that
you.
if that was your intention today, is I'm going to show up and try to save David, this episode would have gone much differently.
Not doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you felt it.
It was a very comforting. Were you keeping an eye on the time? Do you remember how long we were?
Well, I think it was about 10 minutes. It wasn't too long.
Really?
Yeah.
It flew by like that.
Well, you have it.
The timer, you mean?
Well, you have it recorded, so you can,
Oh, yes, we will. Yeah, yes, we will find out when I'm editing. But well, Hanna, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you coming back. And let me just think about how I want to say this for a second. This is great timing as I'm trying to. I don't think the mics would have picked that up. It sounded like a hen. But there's no hens in this. Maybe there is now. What I wanted just to say, and I was trying to think about how to articulate, is that I believe that you are making an impact that we desperately need in the U.S. right now. One of the statistics that I brought up a few times is that in 2021, I don't know how the CDC gathered this information, but they reported that 12 million people thought about putting a plan into action for completing a suicide. And that was only in the US. And that data is old. I would like to find some new data, but that's neither here nor there. The fact is that there is a internal war that's happening in our minds right now. And 40,000 people took their own life. And I feel like we are losing that war. And so we need people like you who are willing to come onto podcasts and do crazy things and look for different modalities for what to do with their clients so that we can bring healing to our own stories. And people then can share those stories. And every time one of those stories is shared, they're lighting another candle. And the next client's lighting another candle. And because of your work, so many candles will be lit in that there will be hope in the darkness for thousands. So please continue to do what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Wow, this is really touches me. And as you spoke about it, I felt so much like this chills. And when I call it like, it's like a confirmation, like everything you spoke about, it's like, it's very true what you're saying. And it's even like stress and anxiety, it's like in the rise right now. And like, it's really important that we connect with our hearts and with our bodies. It's really important.
Yeah.
And I want to say to you, thank you so much for, being you and spreading so much light in this world. That's the word that's keep coming up when I'm here with you this whole time. It's just light. You're just a ball of light. And thank you for being so vulnerable and so open with your heart. I feel your heart, and I felt it from the first moment I met you. And it's just an honor to know you.
As someone who went through their teenage years thinking their heart was broken, that means the world to me. So, excuse me as I'm dying from this cough, this cedar fever. My God, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll come
My
back on
pleasure.
next year.
Wow, it's gonna be probably completely different.
Every year it's gonna
It's like-
be. I mean, like, these two have no consistency whatsoever, but maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. It's
We'll
an
see.
evolution thing. I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
We're all evolving.
We are, hopefully. And if you're not, start.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
like, it's If you're not what?
I said if you're not, start. Yeah.
It's a good idea.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in for this anniversary episode. We will see you next week. Until then, stay healthy, stay happy. Bye, everybody.
Bye.